today, here's the aim. Don't sleepwalk through the day. Wake up. Look around. God, would you activate my eyes? Understand this. People think that being objective or rational is opposed to being deeply passionate. No, it's the other way around. If it were not for our affections, our emotions, our passions, we would have no life at all. We would never do anything. You have a story. And your story matters, and that means that you need to be engaged in your story with all of your heart. The biblical phrase for that capacity to be fully alive and fully committed is wholehearted. Nobody gets the story that they want, but your story matters to God. And the lie of the evil one is that it doesn't matter too much. So I want to talk to you today about your wanter. We're looking at stories, and you will remember, if you've seen some of these other videos, and if you haven't, you can go back and look at them, that at the core of a story is a protagonist, is a person. That's you. And you have an object of desire. You have something that you want. So I want to talk to you today about your wanter. Your wanter needs to be strong. Very often people misunderstand, and they think part of the message of Christianity or the Bible is because we are to be surrendered to God, we're supposed to be kind of apathetic or kind of passive, or whatever happens is okay with me. No, 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 no. Jesus' will was wholly surrendered. That is, it was utterly aligned to and submissive to and actively seeking the will of his Father. But it was very strong. He was characterized, the Bible word for it is zeal. And there's a statement in the Psalms where the psalmist says, zeal for your house consumes me. And when the disciples looked at Jesus and they saw his passion for people and for service and for love and for worship, for prayer, they recognized this was true of him. Now I want to tell you a little bit of a story about Jonathan Edwards as we walk through this. Jonathan Edwards, you may know, was a pastor. He was maybe the preeminent, that's a new word, preeminent thinker, theologian, philosopher that the colonial America produced in the early 1700s, a deep part of what was called the Great Awakening. Edwards, if you know the name at all, you might associate him with the most famous sermon probably in the history of America, which is Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. Folks will often cite that because of its very frightening imagery around hell. And George Marsden has written a wonderful book about Jonathan Edwards, a biography of him. Part of what Marsden, is a great historian, great Christian, writes is that it's a failure in imagination when we do history if we simply pass judgment on people in other eras for not holding the positions that we hold. That instead, we need to first enter sympathetically into their world and seek to understand people, and then we will be in a much better position to be able to learn from them as well as critically evaluate the things that they believed. And that would be sorely needed in our day. So even in that sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, part of what's going on is Edwards is discussing the problem of the nature of sin. The problem in that sermon is not that God has an anger problem, it's that we have a sin problem. And he actually talks about how being in the hands of this God is what saves us. God is protecting us from that which would destroy us. And the whole point of the sermon is to direct people towards God and to be filled with love for God. And he goes on to write about this in one of his great works called Religious Affections. This is what he says. Now, this is thinking about your wanter. What do you want today? Don't be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord, Paul says in Romans chapter 12. And the idea of spiritual fervor is not churchiness. It's not, I like to do churchy stuff. Your spirit is what is core to you, what is deeply true. And that in our day, we would talk about energy. So think to yourself today, what's the energy with which you are living your story? If you think about your heart, 100% is wholehearted, and 0 would be, 50% is half-hearted, Where are you at on the wholehearted scale today? Here's what Edward writes. The kind of religion God requires and will accept does not consist in weak, dull, and lifeless woodings. It's a wonderful word. Would, yeah, I would do that. I should do that. I ought to do that. Those weak inclinations that lack convictions, that raise us but a little above indifferent. God, in His Word, greatly insists that we be in good earnest, fervent in spirit, and that our hearts be engaged vigorously in our religion. And now he quotes from the prophet, what does the Lord your God require of you? To fear the Lord your God, to walk in His ways, to love Him, serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. This fervent, vigorous engagement of the heart is the fruit of a real circumcision of the heart. So, as you think about whatever it is that you're doing today, this kind of wholehearted living does not mean that you got to do different things. It means doing the same old things that you normally do, only doing them with all of your heart, being fully awake, fully alive, awakening. You know, that phrase, the great awakening, Edwards used that to describe times in his own life when he felt deeply moved, deeply stirred by the Spirit of God. And it's like, until then, I was just going through the motions. I was like somebody sleepwalking through life. Don't sleepwalk through the day. Wake up. Edward goes on. The nature of human beings is to be inactive unless influenced by some affection. This is profound observation about human nature. Edwards was a great psychologist, although they didn't have that word back then. Unless influenced by some affection, love or hatred, desire, hope, fear, so on. These affections are the spring of action, the things that set us moving in our lives, that move us to engage in activities. Dallas Willard writes somewhere about how we call feelings emotions. They put us in motion. They make us move. And to be deeply emotionally engaged with God and with our lives is central to human flourishing. There's just no way around it. And weak woodings will not get you there. Not today. Not with your story that matters. Edwards goes on. When we look at the world, we see that people are exceedingly busy. It is affections that keep them busy. If we were to take away their affections, the world would be motionless and dead. There would be no such thing as activity. It's the affection we call covetousness that moves a person to seek worldly profits. The affection we call ambition that moves a person to pursue worldly glory. The affection we call lust that moves a person to pursue sensual delights. Just as worldly affections are the spring of worldly actions, so the religious affections are the spring of religious actions. So our call is to cultivate, to focus our mind and our activity on those thoughts and pursuits that are good and wholesome, where God is in them and they are worthy and noble, and something that I want to give my life to do that so that I am cultivating, developing a sense of zeal, a sense of emotional aliveness, so that my wanter wants to pursue the story that God has for me. And I won't take the time to read all the passages, but in Religious Affections, Jonathan Edwards walks through how the Bible talks about the importance of emotions in our lives to experience what he calls holy fear, the awareness of the danger of sin, and a just God, the power of hope, to be consumed today by hope. Love, of course, above all, to think it is worthy, it is a good thing to be able to love God and love the people in my life. And whoever I see, God, would you kindle an emotion, an affection of love towards them. Holy desire. As the deer pants for streams of water in the desert when it's dry, so my soul longs after you. Now, I can't force this, I can't manufacture it, but I can reflect on it, I can ask for it. Joy. What a great thing to have a wanter that is seized by joy, or religious sorrow when I have messed up, or gratitude, or compassion, or zeal. So today, here's the aim. Don't sleepwalk through the day. Wake up. Look around. God, would you activate my eyes? Understand this. This is so often, Richard Foster talks about this, not understood in our day. People think that being objective or rational is opposed to being deeply passionate. And part of Edward's brilliance is he points out, no, it's the other way around. If it were not for our affections, our emotions, our passions, we would have no life at all. We would never do anything. So, today, deep thought, deep emotion, deep desire, deep wanting. Live your story today with your whole heart.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future teachings from John Ortberg here at Become New. My name's Tim, and I'm a part of the team here. This series is all about stories. Everybody has a story, and everybody's story matters. And we want to know about your story, whether it's a story of coming to faith or a story of spiritual growth. Whatever it is, we're here for you. You can email that to us at connect@becomenew.com, or you can text it to us. You can also sign up for daily reminders whenever we drop a new video via text by texting the word BECOME to the number 855-888-0444. You can also send us prayer requests there. There's a team of us that meet to pray each weekday for viewers just like yourself. If you'd like to receive the emails that go along with each video, be sure to check that out at becomenew.com/subscribe. More than a video to watch, this is really a community to belong to, and we're so glad that you're a part of it. We'll catch you next time.